Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dayton Drama Queens. We are in season 2, about halfway through.
I know, it's crazy.
It's insane.
You're already.
I'm Josh Stucky.
And I'm Philip Drennen.
And we have a great show for you guys today. First of all, we want to thank Square One, who actually provided today's hair on our guest, David Sherman.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much. And a big shout out to Tess.
Yeah, Tori.
Oh,
It's okay.
take two.
Take two. We're so glad to have you here. So first and foremost, the same question we always start off with. How did you end up here in Dayton, Ohio?
Well, I was born in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
And I,
Where'd you go to school?
I went to school I went to several schools actually. I went to Northridge High School.
Yeah.
But I graduated from the Miami Valley School. So
Oh,
I
wow.
had
That's
like
right.
a weird
Yeah.
taste of like a lot of different cultures. of
That's
Dayton.
awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
Remind me, where's Northridge again?
Northridge is North Dayton.
North
so it's
Dayton.
kind of near
Okay.
Vandale, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you know when you were young that theater was going to be your calling? What got you into movies? So on and so forth.
Yeah. When I was a little boy, I think my parents were going through a rough time,
Okay.
to put it,
Yeah.
mildly. They were going through a divorce, and I honestly wasn't getting the attention that I needed growing up. Sound familiar?
There it is.
And my mom happened to see. She knew I liked singing. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed, like, as a kid, I would sing, and my grandmother would encourage me, and so there was an audition for Cinderella, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. And I remember I went in, and it was in this big auditorium in Middletown, and I sang "Oh Country 'Tis of Thee" or something, and the director said, "We can hear you. You're plenty loud."
Oh my
Oh.
God.
And I started to cry. I just,
No.
because I was like, was it wrong? Was it bad?
I would cry now if somebody said
I know, right?
Trauma.
And I guess what he meant to say was, I would love for you to play the little loud child from the opening number.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the beginning of my acting career. I think I was 7
Wow.
when I did that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You knew.
I knew. And I mean, had I been paying more attention, I would have known I was gay at the time, because the prince,
Oh my God.
so cute.
Oh, I know. It's my favorite part of Cinderella. Screw the girls.
Find out a lot about yourself when you start doing theater at a young age, I feel.
I wept a lot when that show ended.
Yeah.
For sure.
Isn't that crazy? You
Sure.
feel like you're never going to see these people ever again. And it's
Yeah, especially the first time.
Yeah.
Because nothing compares to that feeling, that adrenaline. Like,
Right.
nothing we do in life, maybe sports, but comes close to that feeling.
Yeah.
And it requires, there's a lot of fear involved and vulnerability. So,
For sure.
therefore a lot of adrenaline and a lot of chemicals, It's
Yeah.
true.
When was your first Muse Machine show? Because I have to say, I'm not just trying to gas you up, but I will a little bit.
Gas me up.
I had only been doing theater not even a year before I did my first Muse show. And I remember that's when we met. And I remember seeing you and just thinking like, how is this kid so professional?
Oh,
wow.
Such a good actor. Just like, I don't know. It seemed like I was working with a professional adult. And I feel like I did learn a lot from watching you.
Well, I also thought you were incredible.
Oh, thanks.
What was the question?
What was your first music?
See,
like, how'd you get into
What
Muse
happens?
Machine?
You inflate
okay,
my
yes.
ego, and
Right.
I stopped listening.
Yes.
My first Muse Machine musical. I auditioned for Damn Yankees and did not get in,
Okay.
and it was like the biggest blow. I was like, but I was an 8th grader. And I remember they let another one of our friends, Jacob McLaughlin, in when he was a 6th grader, and I was like, what? And he is amazing. So, but the following year was a show called My Favorite Year, and it ended up being one of my favorite shows. And then I went on. I got a supporting role in that as the producer of the King Kaiser Comedy Cavalcade. And then I think the following year I was very lucky to get a role as Colonel Pickering in My Fair Lady.
That was my
My
first
gosh.
That's
Yep.
right. That's
Mhm.
right. And I was working with Ben Magnuson, who went on to do Broadway. And
Mhm.
honestly, if that was your first show, I think the reason you thought I was good is because I was working with someone so much better than me. And there's something to that, right?
Oh, sure.
It brings you, it raises the bar for you.
It really
And
did.
It makes you say, okay, I need to be at this level, and you can sort of see their process. And that's what I loved about Muse Machine in general, is you got to see all of these incredible kids. I mean, you look at them now, I'm sure you feel this way when you go back and you're like, these are children.
Children, yes. Yeah. I had actually seen a Muse Machine musical. I joined the Muse Machine as a club my middle school year, and we went to see MAME. And I had no idea when we went. I thought it was a Broadway tour because I had no idea these were high school students, that I could do this myself. And and I think working with professionals, I mean, at the time we were working with Nat Horn and David Dusing, who had done Broadway. Nat had been a dancer for years. No one knew how old he was.
Oh my God, one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's still around.
Oh my gosh.
Still around.
Wow.
Yeah. And well, actually, we just celebrated him a couple of years ago. But working with that level of professionalism, they asked us to be better.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I mean, I think, and also working at the Victoria Theater and, getting to work with a union crew, and it's just the marketing all around town. It just felt like something, you were part of something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think going back to what you said earlier, I think when that blow happens, when you don't get a role, when you don't get a part, I think that is so instrumental in the growth of being somebody who wants to be on stage.
Yeah.
That it shouldn't always become easy. It shouldn't always be, you know what I mean?
It's important.
Yeah,
I think
it's really important.
Yeah, and I think theater teaches us that.
It does.
That
There's
you're
a
not always
humbling-
going to get that role.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a humbling effect.
And it doesn't always mean that it has anything to do with you or your talent either. You
Right.
know,
Absolutely.
I mean, the sooner people can realize that, which, I mean, it took me a while to realize
Yeah.
that, but it's not always about, how good you are or, know, what you bring to the table.
So many
It's just,
variables.
are you what they need for this one very
Right.
specific thing?
Yeah, another friend of ours, Angele, didn't get a lead until her senior year, and I just thought, this is a crime. She's
Right.
so amazing. And but I think there's just so much competition, especially when we were doing it. I remember how many schools were involved? It was the best of Dayton. And in some ways, I think Muse Machine raised the bar for other schools. I think a lot of their theater programs have improved, and the
There is
budgets
no
have
doubt.
gone up.
There is no doubt.
Yeah, so there's a huge ripple effect.
And you went to Wright State.
I went to Wright State.
Yeah. Tell us about your experience there.
Well, you would have thought that I went into acting after all of that, but
Right.
actually I went into film. I went
Right.
into filmmaking.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, when I was around the same time I was getting into theater, I was also around 12 years old. I was sneaking into my parents' closet and stealing their very expensive Hitachi camcorder, which nowadays we take for granted that we all have a camera.
Right. Exactly. People don't get it.
But
Yeah.
back then, I was not allowed to touch that camera.
Yeah.
So during summer breaks, of course, I touched the camera and started making stop motion animation with
fun.
clay.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
And I just loved, I always wanted to be a magician as a kid.
Oh,
I
cool.
just loved doing magic. I was terrible at it, like all kids are.
Yes.
But I discovered with a camera, I could do that. I could
True
be-
magic.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could create special effects and eventually I moved into storytelling and so filmmaking became something that fascinated me so much I went to school for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And Wright State's program is incredible.
It is.
I mean, at one point it was world renowned. And I mean, Julia Reichert was one of my professors.
Wow.
Steve Bognar, Chuck Derry, just incredible people. And I kind of stood out in the film department because I was this loud extrovert, from the theater.
Right.
And everyone,
Yes.
the typical film student, very quiet. Just, I'm working on my.
Yes.
Yeah.
Deep in
So-
thought.
Yeah, very deep in thought.
Yes.
But I wanted, I came in. My inspiration was, movies like Sing in the Rain
Oh
and
my God.
Back to the Future, very big blockbuster,
Right.
big emotional stories. So I've always been interested in that. And thank goodness Wright State embraced that and embraced me, and were really wonderful.
So many of the people that have sat on that couch have talked about Wright State. It's like almost a hub of all this creativity. And there's so much going on in Dayton. What all do you like love about our city when it comes to the arts? There's so many choices. I just wonder if you have favorites. I know you're doing Beaver Creek, right?
So I moved away for about a decade of my life to live with my partner, Matt, who we were long distance when we met.
Okay.
And so I moved to Denver, lived there for a while, but I always missed Dayton. I always thought about Dayton.
Always brings you back.
That vortex.
It's that vortex, right?
I swear to God.
And as much as I love Denver, there were wonderful things about it. There was something about the community here.
Yeah.
Someone once described Dayton as it's not a city. It's a small town that looks like a city. And
that's exactly it. Yeah.
At first I was like, well, I'm kind of insulted by that.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it. I was like, no, actually, that's one of the great things about it.
It is.
Everyone kind of knows each other. And for good or for good and for bad.
That's right.
But the networking that happens and the sense of community, I think everyone wants to step up and help in this town. When I was in Denver, I ran into obstacles left and right.
Wow.
I had to sign permits to film anywhere. And, for someone with ADD, it's like, paperwork.
Right.
So Dayton, it was always an open door. Everyone wanted you to try things and do things. And I think that spirit is still alive, especially in the art scene. I mean, I see it with the work you all do.
Yes.
Just the synergy and the collaboration of, but everyone wants to help each other. And, but I think your question was about,
what do you enjoy? What do you like? Ballet? Is it opera? Where do you go when you have that time to go check out other things besides what you're participating in?
Well, I love the neon.
Everyone loves the neon. Yes. What a gift is the neon.
You guys have had Jonathan on, right?
Oh, yeah. He's been on.
Okay.
I think he was like our second guest.
Oh, perfect.
Wasn't he second or third guest? Yeah, he was on that first little.
And now you're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
No. It's growing and getting bigger and better.
It's growing.
Thank you. Yes. So one of the things I love to do is go to the film festivals every year. Matt and I, my partner Matt, who's a graphic designer in town, we occasionally go to New York. We try to see as many shows as we can.
Yeah.
But around town, we're doing a lot of acting.
Which was so great.
That was one of the things in Denver. I kind of gave it up for a while. As much as I loved it growing up, I kind of gave it up and focused on my film and television work. And but we came back to Dayton and suddenly found ourselves in community theater shows and rediscovering the things that I missed from my childhood.
It's awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. It's funny. I was just home for Memorial Day. Both my brothers were athletes. And my one brother was saying, what is so cool about being in the arts? You can do it from 1 to 110 and you're still doing that thing. And he's like, being an athlete, there's a time limit. I mean, there's just a day where it ends. He's like, I kind of wish I would have gotten involved with theater, which would have been a disaster. But anyway.
I believe it's MTI is now releasing senior versions of shows.
God, I love it.
Wow.
So they have junior versions, which are, shorter, sort of like made for kids. They have these senior versions of shows that they're releasing for,
I love that.
That is so much fun.
People of a certain age.
That reminds me, Matt and I went to Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival. He does season artwork for them. And they did a production of Romeo and Juliet with older actors, and it just, those words, everything hits so differently.
Yeah. Goosebump moment.
Yeah. The idea of killing yourself, and it's different when you see it. Sometimes I think it's good to do that. And I think Theater Lab does that really well. You try to find different ways to reinvent things.
Oh, Theater Lab, they do. It's an interesting way of doing things.
Yeah.
Because, you'll hear these, I just think there's a twist. There's always a twist. And people are like, well, who would have ever thought of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, there's a genius group that's gotten together who is thinking about these things. And I think it's great to stick with the standards and keep them just the way they are. Sure. But it's also fun to just be like, oh my God, what a great idea.
Well, and especially now, I think it's a good idea to try to, why this show, that's always my question is like when you're picking your work for the season, sometimes you want to pick shows that definitely are about escaping. But sometimes, I just did Reefer Madness with Beaver Creek Community Theater, which is a satire. It's a comedy. But the message is very relevant,
especially right now
to today.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot of talk of fascism, and but why this show? Sometimes I think it's important to consider, like, why this show? Why now? Or how can I take this show? Not that you need to, like, infuse an agenda into everything, but
it'll find its way.
Finding,
Exactly.
exactly,
Find its way.
exactly.
Think about the time and the resources that are put into every production. There has to be some reason that fuels the amount of work, frankly, that goes into these things.
Right. And hopefully you want your audience to walk away with something.
Oh my God.
For sure.
Not just, hopefully they're singing a few tunes,
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
but maybe a message, trickled in there, something.
So it's funny you say that, because especially with Theater Lab this winter, we're going to do a Christmas Carol, but I've been rewriting it. As Phil knows, it's a Christmas Carol in heels. And that all came out of the fact with this drag band. I'm like, what a great idea to put this thing as drag queens doing a Christmas Carol.
I love that.
And making the statement of, really, this is what you want to ban these people that are trying to save the world? And it's just kind of going back to what you're saying. And it will emerge the idea, the feeling. Speaking of those kind of things, what's your favorite musical that you sit through or want to be in or have been in?
I was going to ask that too. Like, is there that, like, idea? You always, like, if it comes up, you're like, what I've always wanted to do? And it's like some
Cabaret. Cabaret.
Oh, the best.
Yeah, I love the dark ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I love a show. I love thinking about shows. I love walking away and going, that was about something else.
Yeah.
It's probably my film school training. All that, like,
of course.
picking apart and analyzing. But I'm a very curious person. I think that shows that make you think resonate with me. But the Cabaret, for sure. I think I would love to be the MC. Who wouldn't? It's the role everyone wants.
Yes.
But I think some of the darker ones. Chicago. I mean, I'm sad that I missed auditions because it's one of my favorites.
It is a great show.
So you guys are putting that on soon.
Yes.
When does that?
It's okay. It's in June. It's in June. So when this airs, you got about 10 minutes to get your tickets.
Okay.
But yeah. That's another one of those.
Yeah.
Like any of that Candor and
Ebb,
they just had a big, huge celebration. I want to say 70? No.
Yeah.
50 years? 60?
I think you're right.
A lot of years.
Yeah.
Yes,
And a
crazy.
friend of mine saw it, just said, well, it was incredible. They got all these incredible Broadway performers, but sometimes you're just like, I forgot they wrote this and they wrote this. And
Yes.
I mean, it's just so ingrained in the Broadway canon.
And I mean, Sondheim as well.
Yeah.
In anything Sondheim. Did you know Sondheim did some of the music for The Birdcage?
I didn't know
I
that.
know that.
Yes, I just found that.
That's
so
interesting.
Yeah, you dig deeper and you find
Yes.
there.
Last night I was reading on Facebook about Dames at Sea, which I don't know if you've ever seen Dames at Sea, but it's a complete satire on, like, 42nd Street and all of those. But it was kind of one of those they did off Broadway, and it was an FU to what was going on Broadway, and it made more money than some of these giant productions.
Oh, interesting.
And Sondheim kept in his drawer, he kept this thing about, he said he would open his drawer and see that Dames at Sea thing. And in his mind, he was like, never get too big for your britches.
Yeah.
Because somebody's got an idea that's better than yours. And
Yeah.
gives you like goosebumps,
And
those ideas.
I mean, he grew up with. Was it Hammerstein? Was his, like, next door neighbor?
Is that
And,
what
like,
it was? One of the. It
so,
was one
like,
of those.
one of the greats.
Yeah.
Was
Yes.
training one of the greats. I mean,
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of Dayton, actually, because I find in this town there are tons of experts on lots of things. If we only listen to them, I just could learn
Seriously.
so much. I mean, you had Joe Deere on your couch.
Yes.
What I could sit and listen to Joe talk about musical theater all day.
Yes. And he could.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and he absolutely could.
He's unbelievable. He
Yeah.
really is unbelievable.
Yeah.
What a wealth of knowledge.
Those are
Jonathan.
exactly the words, a wealth of knowledge. Yeah, and they're so
Generous.
passionate about, I do find, of course, there's going to be a bit of bitterness here and there, whatever, but the people that have gone out and done it or have garnered this wealth of knowledge, they're still so excited about the art form. And that's why I'm just like, I want to learn more. It's not like, oh yeah, don't do that, kid.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I fell in love with Matt, the man I've been with for 15 years. Is we started talking about fonts.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we fell in love talking about Helvetica, and I was like, "Who's this?" But
Love it.
yeah, I mean, but I think that there's no shortage of that in Dayton. There's just so many smart people, and some might call them nerds. I call them friends.
Yeah.
It's true.
But
Dayton.
One and the
We talk about
same.
it over and over again. And speaking of Dayton, we want to thank Square One, who is our major sponsor, and also my assistant Tyler, who does all of this for us. He's amazing.
Beautiful new set.
Yes, beautiful. And I can't wait. We're going to do some live action, hopefully, and we'll see how that goes. But stay with us, folks. I mean, things just keep getting better and better. David, it's time already. Can you believe it?
Can we do this again? I feel
We
like
absolutely
We're going to
can.
try to find a way to bring more people on that couch at the same time. So
Would
maybe
love
you
it.
can bring Matt.
I was going to say, we got to get Matt on here.
get mad in. Yeah.
Somehow, slowly throughout this interview, my mic has just been getting lower. I didn't see it at first.
to get you some fire.
But
Anyway, everybody, thank you so much.
thank you.
I'm Josh Stucky.
I'm Philip Drennen.
And we'll see you again next time.
See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.